He said, the amount of grace that you are being freely given right now has always been available to you. And the idea that this is an exception is something very Midwestern and mostly lives inside you.
Welcome back to a very special episode of the Everyday Insights podcast. Today, we're sharing an extraordinary survival story from Leah Brown, a mountaineer whose passion for the peaks took a near fatal turn on Mount Hood. Leah's harrowing experience, marked by a dramatic fall and a miraculous rescue, captured media attention largely for her astonishing lack of severe physical injuries. However, today's conversation delves deeper, beyond the surface of physical resilience, to explore an often overlooked mental and emotional aftermath of surviving such a trauma. In this episode, we're talking about the scars from an extraordinary tale of survival. But really, we want to open a dialogue about the mental scars left by traumas that we all face. It takes strength to face them and patience to heal them. Leah's journey is a powerful reminder that while physical injuries may heal, the mental journey of recovery is a path walked with time and patience. If you know someone who you think might be struggling internally, try sharing Leah's inspiring story of strength with them. Let's start with Leah's own recounting of the event from her stellar blog, which I've linked in the description. I'm going to read a portion of it before the interview so you can get caught up on her story. And now, in her own words. I almost died yesterday. I was climbing Mount Hood with a group of folks from my mountaineering club. This was going to be my second summit of the year, and we had a bluebird day for it. Cool, but not cold. Clear, but not too windy. Early season snow, thin in some places, but enough to get purchase on without punching through too much. We chose to ascend the old chute route after deciding that the pearly gates had too big of an ice step and this would be a better option. The chute was steep and icy. I had front point crampons, an ice axe, and an additional burlier ice tool. I felt pretty confident using them and was slowly and steadily crawling my way to the top. At one point, I remembered thinking that the only things holding me to this mountain were 4 little pieces of metal, but I kept climbing. Hand, hand, foot, foot, hand, hand, foot, foot, rhythmically making my way up. We made good time to the summit, about 6 hours. It was so beautiful. So clear up there with views of the Cascades in all directions. I felt like I was standing on top of the world. I felt alive. We took our summit photos. Our climb leader reminded us to make sure we were eating and drinking enough, so I took some water and some more snacks before we began our descent. I was making an effort to be better about eating more during these cold weather adventures. We decided to downclimb the same route we ascended. Leader went first, then another member of our team, and then me, slowly backing our way down the chute. Foot, foot, hand, hand, foot, foot, hand, hand, digging our points into the ice. I'm not a fast down climber, so I was taking my time and being careful. I don't remember this next part. Either my tool or my crampon didn't land right, and I slipped. I started falling. I yelled, "Falling!" because I knew that's what you're supposed to do. I dropped one tool that wasn't tethered to me. The other tool got tangled up in my rope of my pack, and I couldn't get to it. I couldn't self-arrest. I kept falling. I couldn't stop myself. I tried to remember what I'd learned about self-arrest with crampons on and breaking your ankles. I couldn't do any of it. I tumbled and slid uncontrollably, grasping desperately at nothing but ice. I remember thinking, I'm going to die. I was told I fell 500 to 600 feet down the chute. I don't know how fast I was going or how long I fell for. Eventually, I landed in a pile of rocks and dirt on the hot rocks area. I don't know how long I laid there for. I remember being in shock. My heart was racing. I couldn't breathe. I raised my arm, hoping that someone would see me and see that I was alive. Eventually, someone found me, either from my climb team or from the Portland Mountain Rescue. They started asking me questions and doing a patient assessment. I'm certified in wilderness first aid, so I knew the protocol. I knew how to behave as close as possible to the perfect patient that we practiced on in training. I answered the questions as best I could. I knew my name. I knew I was on Mount Hood and I had fallen. I knew it was Saturday, but I wasn't sure of the date. To be fair, I would have had to think about it before the fall too. I knew that my elbow hurt, my knee hurt, my thigh hurt. I could wiggle my toes in my boots. My hands worked. They were really sore, but they worked. I knew they had to take my vitals at regular intervals. I asked them not to take my gloves off if possible because I knew my hands would get really cold if they were exposed. I knew that I had to stay warm because it was going to be a long time before I was going anywhere, and I couldn't move to keep warm. I lost track of how many times I said, "Thank you." More rescuers showed up, people from the Hood River crag rats and PMR. They gave me warm layers, put me in a sleeping bag, attached a rope to my harness, and slung it around a rock because I kept being afraid that I was going to slip again. They gave me Gatorade and broth and warm water. They wouldn't let me sleep even though I was so tired because they were worried about my head injury. Someone told me I had a significant dent in my helmet. I'm so glad I was wearing my helmet and it stayed on. Somehow my glasses had stayed on during the fall, but my headlamp hadn't. I spent all afternoon stuffed in a bag, tied to a rock, trying to stay bright and alert and responsive with the rescue teams while they coordinated my evacuation. I'd been to their safety presentations. I knew it was going to take a long time. I had to keep my spirits up and be as patient as possible. I wasn't going to make a bad situation worse, and getting upset wasn't going to make things any faster or easier. These people were here on their own volunteer accord to save me, and I was going to do everything I could to help that go as well as possible. They'd check in every so often and ask, how am I doing? All things considered, I'm doing okay. I asked Crag Rat Elliot, how do you get over something like this? Time and patience. You can't drive an ambulance up the mountain. You can't get a snowmobile or snowcat up that high. Rescue has to happen on foot or on ski. The plan was for the rescue team out of Hood River and another out of Portland to coordinate bringing people and supplies to evacuate me. They were trying to coordinate with Timberline Lodge to get a snowcat to drive them up as far as possible to save time, but that didn't happen. It was starting to get dark. I got to watch the sunrise and the sunset from the same mountain in the same day. Both were beautiful for very different reasons. We watched the lights in government camp come on, the colorful flashing lights we guessed were the cosmic tubing at Ski Bowl. We watched the eerily fascinating line of Starlink satellites cross the sky. It's a miracle I'm alive. If I hadn't landed in the hot rocks, I could have kept sliding down the Mississippi headwall and off a cliff. I would have died. But somehow I didn't die. I didn't break any bones. I have a concussion and a body full of bruises that will show up over the next few days, but I'm so lucky to be alive. I don't know how I got so lucky. I owe my life to PMR and the Crag Rats and to all the people whose names I can't remember who helped me. To everyone who checked on me, helped take care of me and my dog, brought me food and cared for me, thank you. You mean the world to me, and I'm alive because of you. I'm still processing everything, being new to this whole near-death experience thing. I've heard that it takes time and patience. And now, my interview with Leah Brown. Welcome, Leah. Thank you for coming down to my lair here today for an interview and for chatting with me. It's great to see you again. And we've only met a couple times, so this is like both a good get to know you for us. And you have an amazing story that happened to you last month that you can talk about and talk about the aftermath. And it's going to be exciting conversation, I hope. So yeah, how are things? How are you feeling?
Sometimes I live 5 minutes at a time. A lot of times I live 5 minutes at a time.
Is that your whole life, or is that a new feeling?
That's a new thing.
All right.
Yeah, that's been a recent...
It's not like, Vin Diesel, I live a quarter mile at a time. That's not what you're referring to.
No, it is... I was told by one of the therapists, to shrink your world, which was, really insightful and really helpful.
What does that mean to you?
It means being able to say, I am not available for that right now. This is what I can do in this moment and maybe the next one. And if you ask me to think about something beyond that, I'm not available for that. It means being able to say no to things that I previously would have felt expected to say yes to.
What's an example of that? An adventure kind of thing, or what strikes you that way?
I use it at work sometimes. People are like, well, can you do this, look at this thing next week? And I was like, no, that's a next week thing. Or making future plans. And I don't know. I can't commit to that right now. This is what I'm doing now. This is what I'm doing next. And that's where we live.
Yeah.
And people have been really understanding and really good about it. We had my office holiday party and I was like, we need RSVPs. And I was like, you guys, I don't know. I don't know how I'm going to feel. I don't know if I'm going to be up to it. And they're like, okay, that's okay. We want to see you, but if you can't make it, that's fine. And I was like, I'll try and go because like you guys, I want to see you outside of work. I don't know how long they'll be able to stay. I don't know. And they're like, all right, that's totally fine.
That's awesome that people supported you like that so far. And everything.
Yeah.
Thank you for showing up here today and everything too. No,
you're welcome. Yeah, that's been, my friend said something really insightful talking about the office party where I was like, I went for like an hour and a half and I was like, okay, like this is as much as I can handle. And people were like, oh, cool. Good to see you. We totally understand. You can leave. And he said, the amount of grace that you are being freely given right now has always been available to you. And the idea that this is an exception is something very Midwestern and mostly lives inside you.
Mm.
And I was like, why did no one tell me that 29 years ago? Like, oh my God, like you're right.
Midwestern, that's an interesting part. Or I just think of that as human too, that we all kind of put a lot of pressure on ourselves to perform to societal norms or to keep going that way.
Yeah. So that was.
Yeah, you can step out and do whatever you feel like. And people might have an opinion of you sometimes, but so what?
Yeah, it's okay. So that's been, I think one of the positive things I've been able to take away from it is that's an option.
Yeah.
And it's a perfectly valid option. Life goes on. I didn't stay for the whole party. So what? It's fine. Doesn't make me a bad friend. Doesn't make me a bad coworker. Doesn't make me anything other than someone that's like, hey, this is what I can do. I will show up in that way. And that's it.
Yeah.
So it's been really nice.
Yeah. Sounds like a good philosophy. Well,
Yeah.
Let's step back from all that for a moment and just tell me a little bit about your history too. So we met through our running friends, probably through Ethan.
Yeah.
He's the big glue of
Yes.
a lot of this ultra marathon
Ethan
running
is the
crew.
logistics of a lot of things.
How did you get into that scene, or when did you move to Portland and stuff?
I moved to Portland in 2010, and I didn't get into that scene until probably 2017. I came from the obligatory road running background because that is what is there. That is what is convenient. That is what you do. And then I moved out here and I was like, oh, you guys have like dirt and mountains and cool things. I'm going to try that. Wait, I like this. I'm going to do more of this. And then I met people through that community that I think I wouldn't have met any other way. A lot of my close running friends, I'm like, we would have never crossed paths. We're very different circles except for that overlap. Like Ethan, for an example, would not have run into him any other way. And now like he and Aaron Lee are like, they adopted me at one point during a race. And I was like, cool, like we're buddies now. Like my friends are a bunch of mid-40s dads. Like, all right, cool. That seems totally fine. Which I think I would not have expected to like befriend and be part of that community. And I really like it.
I am still not nearly as into it as all they are. Like they're watching all the podcasts, they're talking about all the races, they're planning the next race, they're talking about gear. They're just like so steeped in it, I can't keep up.
Oh, I'm not either. I just like hanging out with people who like doing the same thing as me.
What's your typical monthly schedule like on that stuff? Are you going out every weekend, hitting some long trail run? How have you played this sport?
Oh. More as an adventure rather than a sport, I think. Like I ran road marathons and then I was like, oh, 50K, like that's another 5 miles. I made the same rookie mistake that everyone makes. They're like, it's just another 5 miles. It's not that much worse. And you're like, well, it's 3,000 more feet of uphill and 5 miles. Like it's going to take you more than 45 minutes longer. And I was like, oh, okay. It's like a little humbling. But after that, I was like, wait, I'm kind of good at this. I was a little bit surprised. I was like, okay, like I can do that thing. Well, what's the next thing? And so it became, can I run longer things? Can I run faster things? Can I run pointier things?
Then it becomes more about the hill climbing.
I mean, I really like climbing. I'm like the uphill person. I'm the annoying person that's, I'm going to talk to you while we're going up this hill. And you're like, I hate you. I'm dying right now. I'm like, this is great. But I think it became a question of finding out like, what am I capable of? And I previously didn't have a good way of testing that and discovering that. Like most kids, I played like rec league soccer and those kind of things. It was like, oh, this is fun, but I don't really get to like find myself in this.
Yeah, the soccer sometimes it's just like passing the time. It's not
Yeah.
the intense like battle with your mind and battle with yourself that 50K or those long runs and tough hills are.
It's like you have a kid that like needs to do something here.
Yeah, it's an
Go
activity.
play a team sport, get the wiggles out.
And you learn
Here's
a lot
an orange
through it.
slice.
Working with the team, and there's a lot of things you learn through it.
Yeah.
Definitely very valuable,
Yeah.
very good thing to do. However, it's just different.
It's really different. And I think I didn't know that I needed something different until I tried it. And then my dad crewed me at a race a couple of years ago, like the first time he'd ever been involved. And he was like, I don't understand like why you want to run for 30 hours, but it kind of makes sense because you've always been like really driven and really stubborn and determined. And he's okay, this is apparently the outlet or the way to express that.
100-miler or what?
Yeah, it's a Superior 100 2 years ago. Yeah, I went back to Minnesota to run the race, and my dad was there. He's like, you should come stay with me. And I was like, Dad, you should crew for me.
Up for a whole day.
And he did really well for being his first thrown into it. I tried to make it easy on him. I was like, here are like the few spots I need you to be at vaguely this time. I put everything in a bag, and I was like, just bring me this bag. Just be here with this bag, and I will do the rest of it.
Is that like a straight line race or a loop?
It was a point to
multiple
point.
loop? Mhm.
Yeah, it follows a big chunk of the Superior Hiking Trail in northern Minnesota, which is beautiful. And that was a really good experience for him to come and be part of that and understand this thing that's really important to me that doesn't make sense to a lot of people that either don't do it or don't know someone that's involved in it. Because you tell people like, I'm going to run 100 miles. Like, I don't want to drive that far. And I'm like, well, I don't either. So
it's a crazy amount of work to run those races.
Yeah.
And I haven't done that crewing for someone. Like, I think that is probably not quite as hard, but it's hard in a different way.
It's really hard. Like it is.
Sit around for 24 hours or 18 hours or 30 hours, and
it's a labor. I mean, it's a labor of love.
Yeah. I did Ironman Cozumel one time, and my wife crewed for me basically then. She came down with me and helped me, carrying my bike and everything and making sure I was okay. But yeah, that was, I don't remember how long, 13 hours or something. And
it's a long day.
She like sat down and got bitten by a hill of ants during it, and like all these different things that happened, and then has to deal with all the heat and just like standing around waiting for you just to like wave at you for a few seconds. And then,
bye.
You're
Yeah.
going.
Can I have clean socks now? Okay, I'm going. I'll see you in 3 hours. Like,
yeah, it is a labor of love.
It is totally a labor of love. And I like being on both sides of that. Like some of the best experiences I've had have been like pacing and crewing for other people. I think there's something really special about basically just like giving all of yourself to someone else's goal and like removing that. This is not my race. This is not my thing. This is what can I give for you? Yeah. A little off topic, but
yeah, no, that's good. So running was like road running was your gateway to trail running?
That was the gateway drug.
Yeah.
I'd done some hiking and some backpacking. I like being outside. And it was like, well, this is what you do outside. I used to take my dogs backpacking, and then I learned, I was like, well, if you go faster, you can cover more ground and you can see more things and you can get to more places. That's the other thing that really appeals to me is being able to get places and see things that you couldn't any other way, like stuff you can't drive to or bike to, or I mean, I guess you could hike or backpack. It just takes a lot longer. And being able to have those experiences like entirely of your own power is really, it's like really empowering to me. And so that's a big part of it.
Yeah. So then how did that progress, or what other sports are you into?
I do bike things. I ride bikes. I race bikes. That's how I get around.
What kind of bike racing?
I'll road race. I tried mountain bike racing, which it turns out I like riding mountain bikes. I don't like racing mountain bikes. I've done some gravel racing, some cyclocross racing, some like Cat 6 commuter racing where I'm just like, shit, I'm late for work. I got to really fast. That's how I started bike racing, was just being late all the time and being like, oh, wait, I'm actually fast. Like I can be fast when I'm not scrambling to get to work.
I was always a very good runner, but for some reason, biking, I'm just like, the back of the pack all the time. I can never quite understand why.
There's, I think, a lot more outside variables. Like, you can buy a really fast bike and you can buy mechanical advantage. It's much harder to do that running. Like, your, 2% faster shoes, and they really help much. But like your crappy commuter bike versus the things they ride in the Tour de France, there is no question. Just my like love-hate relationship with the cycling community. I'm like,
I don't think it matters. Well, not as much as the time differences I saw
Yeah.
in my own performances. It was not just the equipment, but yeah, that was always a weird, shocking thing for me. And the biking nuts would say, "Oh, you just got to keep at it for 4 years or something like that. Your muscles and your physiology changes, and then you'll just get way faster." But and then maybe that's true. There would be all these older men, 20 years older than me or something, that would be much faster and just can crank it out all day. And I was, sitting there struggling.
They have the time to train, and they can afford to buy the fancy. We call them dentist bikes, like people that can afford a really expensive bike, and they ride it like 3 times a year. Yeah.
So you got into biking and then climbing stuff as well, or you were out on the trails. You were like, "Hey, let me go start climbing as well."
Yeah, I get.
I'm good at climbing up when I'm running. I might as well climb in many
ways.
A
way, yeah. Just being where there are mountains and there are more technical things. Like, we don't have this stuff in the Midwest. And just being like, well, there are more things to explore that I want to be able to explore on my feet, but I can't do it without more gear and more knowledge. And it was like, I want to go up that thing. Like, I've gone around the mountain. How do I get up it now? And it was like, oh, you can't just hike up it. You can't just run up it. You need more. So a couple of years ago, I joined the Mazamas. I was like, I want to learn climbing stuff. Like, I don't feel like I can just, I can't wing this. Like, the consequences are too great. There's like too many moving parts. So how do I learn this? And I was like, oh, like the climbing community. And so I joined them. And they have a basic climbing education program that I did last year that was really fun. It's a mix of like rock and snow. And I was like, well, I want the slow trudge up the steep hill. Like, rock climbing is cool. I enjoy it. But I just, I want to trudge up the giant mountains forever. And that appealed to me. I love a good slow trudge up a steep hill in the dark where it's miserable. I was like, yes, this is where I feel at home somehow. And there are other people that also are like, that's what I want to do. And so I kind of found that subset of weird uphill athletes.
Yeah, I was wondering if, like I was mentioning the bike riding thing, if for some reason, like, I'm very good at running, but my legs just don't put out the power, or like just not as good at cycling. Do you think the climbing is that same way, that like some people's physiology is just, I can clamber up these rocks and it's not a big deal?
Maybe. I think it does. It becomes easier for some people. Going up things is hard, and I think it's easy to get deterred. We're like, oh, this is hard, this sucks. And just the acceptance of, yeah, it's gonna be hard. It's gonna suck for a while. But like, you're rewarded with like really cool views or a sense of accomplishment or something that makes suffering up this like slow, trudgy, steep hill worthwhile.
Yeah. What is it for you? What do you get most out of it?
Sometimes the views are great. Sometimes they're terrible. I think it goes back to the process of, can I do this? What am I capable of? Like, little me, giant mountain. Yeah, I can do that thing. And I grew up like feeling like I didn't have that potential. It was like, no, you're small, you're limited. And then understanding that isn't true. Like, you are small, like physically compared to the world. You are physically a small being, but that doesn't mean you have to stay feeling small. Like, small things can do really big stuff. Like, we went to the Grand Canyon a couple months ago, and it was like, this giant thing was created by what started out as a small amount of water. And so I got thinking about like a water kick for a while, and I was like, this really small, insignificant thing has actually done really big stuff. The gorge here was made by small bits of water. And it's, small things are not actually that small. So that was kind of a fun
All right.
revelation.
Deep thoughts.
Yeah.
All right.
There's going to be some like deep nuggets and then some just like some random stuff. So yeah, I think that's part of the appeal, is like sort of disproving my smallness, but at the same time embracing it.
Oh, that's interesting. I'm trying to think of that small feeling or how it comes about in myself too, or, what makes us feel that way, and then how the activity can alleviate it or.
Yeah. So that's one to sit with for a while and think about. I've been thinking about that one for a long time. So I don't know. I feel like a lot of our modern society is very like me centric, and we're really small things in this really big, crazy, like beautiful world. And I like that reminder of you are part of something much bigger than yourself. And so I'm like, how can I find that? I'll go and seek out ways to be reminded this mountain does not give a shit about you. Nothing that you do is going to change it. It is going to be there exactly the way that it is, before you, after you, regardless of you. And I think as humans, we want to have control over our environment. Like we want to make things the way that we want them. And being outside, being in the mountains, you're like, I can't control the weather. I can't control the conditions. I, can't make the snow better. I can't make this trail less muddy. I can do nothing to change the external. So what do I do in myself to change my relationship with that? Be like, all right, it's really cold and snowy. I'm going to put on another jacket. I'm going to do something different to stay warm. Be like, it's really muddy. Okay, what do I have to do? Like, I'm just going to get my feet wet. I can't keep trying to avoid it. It's like having to accept this. These are the things I can't change. But what can I change?
Yeah, it's a fairly philosophical way to look at some of that stuff.
Yeah.
Where sometimes I'm much more grunting through stuff, or just preparing yourself to, like, I know these challenges are out there and I'm going to prepare my gear, prepare my mind, my body to go accomplish that challenge, versus this more symbiotic relationship almost you're talking about.
Yeah. And those are the things you can do, like yourself, your gear, the things you do have control over, and then accepting that there is a large part of it that you have zero control over.
Yeah.
It's like the bumper sticker that
I don't think of that enough. I guess that's probably what I say.
Yeah. You feel like you've seen the bumper sticker that's, if you get closer, it's not going to make me drive any faster. You have no control over those sort of external things. You just have to, have to accept it.
Yeah. Yeah. One thing you said is a decent segue. You're saying how the mountain doesn't care what happens to you or what you do, which, one of the big things we're here to talk about was the accident you had last month. That's a pretty major moment in your life where the mountain did not care.
Nope. I mean, it was almost exactly a month ago.
We'll get into talking more about what happened and how you felt then, but where are you now, a month after having this major traumatic life altering experience?
Where I'm at now is we were tentatively planning to climb again tomorrow.
Whoa.
But the weather was unfavorable, and I was like, that's cool.
Like same spot, get back on the horse, or just go hike in the mountain?
So we were going to go back up Hood. There was one of the people that was on the climb with me, one of the climb leaders, and some of the other people they posted another climb, and I was like, I think I want to try this again. And they're like, okay. They're like, if you feel up for it. Like they both told me about they'd had mountaineering accidents in the past. Like you know enough climbers, like people that have had things happen. And one of them was like, I fell into a fumarole a couple of years ago. Like I broke my shoulder. There was definitely some PTSD and some recovery, but I'm still getting back out there.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, like I think I want to try it again. I'm not done. And there's some people that are like, nope, I had one accident. Like I'm scared off. I'm never going to do it again. I'm like, that's also totally fine. But I guess the weather tomorrow is not favorable. And I was like, that's fine. I don't need to do this in unsafe conditions.
Yeah. What's the season? We did a run.
It just started. The climbing season is more.
You want the ice and you want
more snow.
Yeah.
The problem with ice is it's unpredictable and it's hard. It's sometimes hard to sink tools into, which I think is what happened to me. So the season basically just started, and then it goes through like May. I think last year I climbed in May, and it's very different conditions in winter versus spring.
Mm.
Spring is more snow, and winter is more like there are some sections that are more like vertical ice climbing. So you need more technical tools, more gear. Where in the spring, some of the steeper chutes they fill in with snow. So the slope angle isn't quite as steep. You have better purchase.
You're not using snowshoes then or anything though? It's more still crampons and
People try it with snowshoes, and those are often people that have unsuccessful attempts, especially closer to the summit where it does get steeper and icier all year long. Yeah, I'm a big fan of crampons, like having pointy things. I mean, we had 2 ice tools. I say do it with at least 1 in the spring. You need 2 in the winter, as many points of contact as possible.
what's it look like? What are you doing in these routes? Or what are the routes like? And then what equipment do you need to climb through these things?
I only know a few of the routes on the south side. Those are the standard routes. There are more challenging, more technical ones on the north side that are like above my current skill level. So I don't know as much about them. The one that we did, we went, basically it's called the Old Chute is one of the routes. The other route on the south side is the Pearly Gates. And we kind of made the decision when we got there. I guess the gates were too steep, too icy. And so they thought the Old Chute would be safer or more reasonable.
Yeah.
This time of year, it's basically like an ice chute. So we had 2 ice tools, and I don't even know the angle of the slope, but it's pointy things attached in the ice and then crampons stuck in the ice.
Kicking each foot in each time.
Yeah. So it's like you move a tool, you move a tool, you move a foot, you move a foot, and you just slowly repeat hand, feet up.
And ropes, not tied into ropes or you're not clipping into rocks or doing that. So
we weren't tied into ropes. There are some routes, sometimes people will put protection in, pickets or ice screws, again, based off of what the ice or what the snow is. If you can get something in and then you rope to it. They're
not like standard prepared routes or anything. Though. This is all just kind of everyone's making their own way each time. But
there are generally traveled routes, especially on the south side, which is the common climbing side routes that like geographically make sense. Whereas like
because they're closer to the roads and that kind of thing.
They follow the terrain of the mountain. Like they put you on something that's reasonable and not, super like overhangy or steep or like a weird, similar to the way that you would think of a downhill ski run. Like there's just a line that seems to make sense that follows the terrain or follows the mountain just going up. And so they become the reasonable routes. Like people will try to do other routes and try to do new routes, and sometimes it works and sometimes you're like, no, I can't go this path.
How else should we get through this story? Reading your blog, it's a great story. It's, you tell it well, tell all the points. It's almost like I don't want to just be repeating that exactly.
Sure. I will tell the story to the best that I remember. It's interesting. There are parts I remember very distinctly, and then there are like big chunks that are just nothing, like not
That's so
there.
Weird, right?
Yeah.
I've never had that experience.
I think it's the way that like your brain tries to process or tries to handle traumatic situations.
Yeah. Do you think it's kind of blocked out, or do you think you were like just knocked out? Like you were
both. I think both. I think there were times where I definitely did lose consciousness. And I learned that if the EMS asks, did you lose consciousness? And you say, I don't know, it means yes. So there are definite moments where I was unconscious. And then I think there are other moments where my brain is just like, nope, we're not going to acknowledge this. We're just going to like black box this as I think a survival mechanism.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm still learning how like all of how do our bodies handle trauma?
Yeah. One thing you said to me when we talked last week was that, the news articles and things that covered the situation, they focused a lot on your physical well-being in
Yeah.
that, you fell hundreds of feet off this mountain and you walked away without major, like you're sitting here fine. A month later, you're ready to climb again physically. You've got some scabs, some,
Yeah, I'm like
some,
beat up, but I didn't break anything.
yeah.
And that was where I think a lot of people focus, because that's something is easy to understand. Like, and in a way, like I think I said to somebody that it almost would have been easier if I had broken my arm, and people would be like, your arm is in a cast. Like, I understand something happened and that is going to take time to heal. Like, we have a basic understanding, like,
And it would be there for a few months, right?
Yeah,
Like there's
like,
clear sign. Yep.
broken bones take
She got injured doing
8
something.
weeks to heal or whatever. Like, people can see that, people can understand that. That's very clear. And the fact that I didn't have any of that, I think, has made it harder for people to understand. Like, I mean, I like barely had any external bruising. Like, my elbow was probably the most bruised. There was some like internal stuff, which was weird and then harder to explain. I look fine, but I'm not, like, physically, I don't feel fine. I feel like I went through a rock tumbler, and like emotionally, like I'm not fine. But being portrayed as, oh yeah, she walked away from this thing unscathed, made it a lot harder to be able to say, like, no, that's not true. People are like, oh, like, you rode your bike to work, like, you must be fine. I was like, no, I'm really not. Like, I'm trying to do the things that make me feel sort of normal, but that doesn't mean I am normal. Like, I'm sitting at my desk, like, physically, mentally, I'm like, I don't know where I am right now. But that's much harder for people to understand. And I think it's a coping mechanism for other people too, to not have to like hold on to that idea of, holy shit, like, my friend almost died. I don't want to have to think about what would have happened if my friend did die. You're here, you're safe, you're fine, moving on. Yeah, so I think it's coping on both sides, like not having to address the worst case situation or worst case scenario. Yeah.
It's interesting, the idea of it's almost easier if your arm was broken or something. How do you think it would feel different now? What would if you imagined that in life?
I mean, I think I would be annoyed that
crutches,
like, I would be annoyed. I'd be like, God damn, I just really want to use my arm again.
I wonder if it would give you something to be mad at, or something, something you were struggling with moment to moment that
I don't know.
Distracts you or something.
I think it would have made the I'm not okay explanation easier. But I also think it wouldn't have allowed me the grace to be able to say, I'm not okay. And because that was something I couldn't do before. I felt like I always had to be really tough and be like, no, I'm great. Shit hurts. But like, no, it doesn't. It's fine. It's fine. There's a tattoo on my leg, literally, that says everything is fine. It's a Marvin. It's really cute. But to just have that mentality of like, fine, I'm just going to suffer through things, which is really not beneficial. And ended up causing a lot of like physical and emotional issues for me. And so having this experience where I'm basically forced to say, I'm not fine, I'm not okay, has like allowed me, like, yeah, I can say that to people. And it's okay that I say that to people, and people who are actually my friends and people who actually care are going to accept that. And they're going to show up for me. And people that are, just looking for a really cool news story aren't going to get that, and they can piss off. I think one of my friends was like, yeah, I found one of the news articles that like quoted you as telling the news to piss off. And I was like,
really?
Yes. I mean, they were relentless. Like, they were harassing me because of this cool story. And I was like, but I'm a human being. Like, this story is about human beings. It is about the human beings that also spent 7 hours or more on the side of the mountain, like with me voluntarily. That's the story, not that, oh, you walked away from this thing. But that's not the story that the news wants to tell. Yeah.
I can relate to that part a little bit as I try to make a show that people want to watch. There's the headline and the clickbait kind of thing that you should be putting out.
If it bleeds, it leads.
Yeah. And they're really focused on that. If I really wanted to be popular on YouTube, I would not be doing what I'm doing. This is like I'm just making something that I think is interesting and that I think I'm trying to put out good content there or things people can learn from, but that's not what someone clicks on.
Yeah.
So if you want to get a following, you got to just make what people are going to click on.
Yeah.
And how did that feel to just have gone through this, and then the news is calling you up and the people are trying to
It was
get your
weird.
story?
The first two news people that talked to me were nice. Somebody from one of the local TV news shows interviewed me, and I felt like he was kind. And the guy from the Oregonian spent 2 hours talking to me and he was kind about it. And he even sent me a draft of the article and asked me, do you agree with this? Do you fact check this? And there were things I told him that I was like, I don't want you to publish that.
Nice.
And he did. He respected that.
Yeah.
And he's, that would be an interesting angle of the story. And I was like, I don't want that out there. One of the things is, I will tell you, the person that was my emergency contact at the time was my ex-boyfriend. And hi, Ryan. The fact that I was in all of this, I remembered his phone number and I told the client leader, I was like, can you call Ryan and just tell him this happened? And I was like, man, this should be worth points here. I remember your phone number after falling off a mountain. And the Oregonian was like, that's kind of funny. That's an interesting angle. And I was like, I don't want to bring him into that. I don't want him to be dragged into something that he has no consent being dragged into. Yeah, it's funny, but don't publish that. And he didn't. He was like, okay, we don't have to. We cannot include that. So we can include that or not, whatever. At this point, it is kind of humorous. But after those two, it was less nice. People were less nice.
Because you think they weren't as skilled, or they were far away from it, or I wonder what.
I think it was this is a really interesting story that's, I wasn't aware of before. And now I want it. I want to be the person that gets this story. And it became much more about getting the story than the person involved in the story. And I feel like the first two were a little bit more about me and less about, I want to be the person that breaks this.
It's funny. I would almost imagine it going the opposite direction of the first people who find it are people who scan the police blotter and are just trying to, find some bleeding news, as you said. And then later on would be the people digging in for the more human interest. But that's kind of the opposite of what happened.
Part of it, I think, is my fault. Some internet troll got a hold of the story because Portland Mountain Rescue posted it on their page, because they do. When there is an incident, they will leave out identifying details, but they'll be like, hey, be careful, be aware. It's
still happening.
Yeah, this is a situation.
Hasn't gotten safer. Yeah.
We don't want to have to do this. And so they put it out as a public service kind of thing. And then some internet troll found out about it and was like, oh, well, you're a new person. You should be doing this. The people you were climbing with were unsafe. Your crampons fell off. Someone should have checked your gear. And I was like, no, you were not there. You have no right to comment on what happened.
Yeah.
If you want to talk about what happened, that was me. I will tell you what happened. And then people are like, oh, yeah, we do want to talk to you. Shit, no, never mind. I changed my mind. I don't actually want to talk to all of you. I just wanted to shut this guy up that was your crampon fell off. And I was like, no, sir, that's not actually what happened. You can stuff it. And the other thing was they were trying to say that the people I was climbing with they had done something wrong or were unsafe. And I was like, that's absolutely not true. And I didn't want them to get a negative reputation or get dragged down, because I was like, it's not their fault. They didn't do anything unsafe. They didn't do anything wrong. I don't blame them. I totally trust them. I will climb with them again. And they're like, we'll climb with you again. And so I wanted to make that really clear, to not have other people brought down because of something that was not their doing at all. Yeah. I don't want their reputations getting smeared.
That makes sense. Yeah. I wonder if it's a good time to go to how does it happen or something. I don't think it's your fault. Like you said, it's all this, things just happen.
Sometimes shit happens.
Yeah. Even though you had gone through a lot of safety courses, you've been training for a while, you guys, had good equipment, you tested it, you're like, what? Yeah. Tell me about how the story leading up to it, I guess.
So the part that everyone wants to know that I don't have the answer to is what exactly happened. I don't know. I know we made it up. We did the summit. We took the picture. We ate the snacks. We're like, okay, now we have to go back down. And I know I'm not the fastest down climber. And I was like, okay, I just have to be careful. Like I'm going to, move one thing at a time. I was the third person in our group going down. Like the climb leader went first, and then it was another guy, and then it was me. And, they told us like there was a lot of like ice and stuff falling. So it was like, be careful. Try your best not to knock things down on the person below you. Try to make sure you're not right above them. So anything you do dislodge, doesn't hit them.
Is it rocks
It's
too
ice.
that you're over? It's just
No, it's
everything's
all
covered in ice.
It's all ice. Yeah, at this point, it's all, but it's like kind of loose, and it was like 11 in the morning, so things are melting a little bit. That's one of the other challenges with Hood is the ice changes. It melts and freezes, and it's solid, and then it's not solid. Especially in the winter, it's more fluctuating, and pieces will fall off. Especially when you get a lot of people, hacking into it and dislodging things, you get much more ice fall. And some of the chunks can be pretty big. Like you often hear about people getting hit with a significant piece of something. And so we were trying to be really careful, like not doing that, not knocking things down on the person below you.
And you can imagine that knocking someone off, putting it stuff too easily. Right?
That's happened before. People have, fallen because they've gotten hit by rocks or ice or things falling from above have caused major issues. So that was one thing. It was like, don't be right on top of him. And so I was trying to like make sure, I was far enough away from the person behind me. And then also kind of being like, well, this is the best route down. Because you're kind of in a narrow chute. You can't really go too far left or right. Some of the ice is just, it's too hard or it's too fragile. Like you can't sink your tools into it. And so trying to pick a reasonable line down that also wasn't going to be a hazard for other people. And so I'm doing that, and I'm like going down the thing, and I'm attached to the things, and then I'm not attached.
Yeah.
And I don't know what didn't stick, or
like, so you had your points on, you're probably knocking something in, and that's that feeling.
Something
it's
just
all of a sudden nothing is connected anymore. Like,
something didn't stick. And like I know you're supposed to keep at least 3 points attached at all times. And I guess I was told like the ice was not great. Like it wasn't really conducive to sticking things in, which again, nobody's fault. So the only thing I can guess is just something didn't land the way it was supposed to. I don't know if it was a foot or a hand. I don't know. This is the part I don't remember. I wish I did. And people were like, no, there's nothing you could have done. So I was attached, and then I was not attached. And I just remember it was like, shit, like I'm falling. And I remember that I yelled falling. So I was like, that's what you're supposed to do. I know, I've been trained to do this. You fall, you yell falling. And I dropped both of my tools. I had one that was like tethered to my harness, but it slipped out of my hand and got like kind of tangled. It was like stuck on my pack, and so I couldn't get to it.
Yeah.
And the other one like just had a little loop around my hand, and I lost it. And so I had nothing to hold on to. I had nothing to try and self-arrest with. And like I was like, shit, I can't stop this. I have lost all of the things that would allow me to stop this. And like,
were you sliding or just like flipping end over end, or what is the point?
So I was told that I bounced. People saw me. Yeah. There were other people out there, and they saw me bounce. Or like at one point you were like airborne. One of the PMR guys was joking that I was doing cartwheels.
Yeah.
I don't remember all of the motions. It was definitely not just a
you weren't going like
slide.
This trying to not sliding on a ski slope.
No, it was like sideways, end over end, just like being in a rock tumbler. You're just everywhere. And then realizing I don't have the things I need to make this stop. I can't. It is ice. There's nothing. And I'm just like grabbing it. Nothing. And at that point I was like I'm going to die. I know what happens if I can't stop this, which is the only time in my life I've ever had that feeling of, holy fuck, I am going to die. And then just, I don't know what to do. Just literally scrambling against the ice, trying to figure out how to stop, and knowing that like I can't. Parts of this I don't remember. I definitely like hit my head. There's a dent in my helmet. So I know I hit my head somewhere in all of this. And then I remember like I landed in this sort of crumpled up like a pile on a bunch of like rocks and dirt near the area called the Hot Rocks. So there's less ice in this one area because of geothermal
Oh, really? They're
warming.
actually
Yeah,
hot rocks.
it's literally called the Hot Rocks because the rocks are warm. Because whatever internal volcanic stuff is going on. Don't remember my geology. Yeah, it keeps the rocks warm enough and like melts the snow and the ice, and so it never sticks to this area. There's some like fumaroles, which are basically hot, stinky holes in the mountain that are full of toxic sulfuric volcanic gases that you don't want to fall into in this like warm geothermic activity area. And I was told later that the normal fall line for the route that I was on was like 10 yards to the right and just keeps going, which like in my head, I knew that. I was like, I know where this goes. It's down this thing. It's off this cliff. This is, you don't walk away from that. And I somehow made it to the side of it. And so I ended up in this like pile of rocks and dirt, which I guess had enough traction to stop me from sliding. Really, really lucky that I landed there. And I remember when I landed, I was like, I stopped. I'm not falling. I'm not moving anymore. And I was like, okay, I'm just not gonna move. I'm not gonna do anything. I was panicked at this point. I was panting. I'd feel like my heart was racing. I looked at my heart rate graph on my watch later, and it's like little things. And there's this like giant spike. And I was like, yep, I know exactly what that was. And so I just laid there in this like weird little ball. And I think I was like in and out of consciousness a little bit at this point. But I remember like, I stopped and I was like, okay, I don't know what to do. And I raised my arm. I was like, maybe someone will see me and see that I'm alive. Because I didn't know where anyone else was at this point. I had no idea how far I'd fallen. A lot of the stuff I was told after that it was like 500 feet or something. I don't know how long I fell for. Yeah, I don't know. I was just like, okay, like I'm alive. Like maybe I can get up and walk off this. I was like, no, you can't. That's ridiculous. You're not getting up and you're not walking away from this.
You just kind of knew that mentally? It wasn't like you couldn't move your legs? Or
my initial thought was like, shit, I gotta get up and I still gotta walk down the rest of this mountain. And then it was like, no, you're not gonna be able to do that. Nothing hurt right away.
Yeah, like you didn't have any bones protruding.
No.
Your back wasn't broken or, like toes wiggled.
And I was so full.
How do you know not to get up and start walking back up?
I couldn't. I physically couldn't. I very quickly realized you are full of adrenaline. Actually, everything is going to hurt. And no, you can't walk.
Wow.
But my initial reaction was like, okay, I got to get out of here. There's still, 4 miles of mountain left or something. And then it was like, nope, that is not happening. You're not going anywhere. And so I raised my arm and I was like, maybe someone will see that I'm alive. I don't know. And then the next thing I remember was someone, I don't actually remember who it was. I think I was later told it was one of the people from my climbing party. If it was either the leader or the second person, came over and did the wilderness first aid assessment. I'm trained in medical stuff. Can I help you? And I was like, hey, I know these questions. I have WUFA too. I know how I'm supposed to answer these. And I was like, yeah, okay, I can do this. I can answer this stuff. And he's like, I need to do an assessment. And I was like, okay, yeah, I understand this. And so they did that. And then again, there are parts of this I don't remember. They're like, do you know where you are? Do you know what day it is? Do you know what happened? And I was like, I think it's Saturday. I was like, I wasn't super sure when we started, but apparently I answered everything correctly. And they're like, okay, what hurts? And I was like, I don't know, everything right now. And so they start doing the physical assessment. I hit my knee. My left knee was super painful. And I was like, this doesn't bend. I can't use that. My arms were all bashed up. My hands were bashed up. My right thigh hurt ridiculously bad. And they're like, okay, we have to do a couple of field tests. Did you break your femur? We're really sorry. It's going to hurt if we do this. And I was like, no, we don't think it's broken. So what do we do now? And I was like, I don't know. And I was afraid that I was going to keep sliding because I'm still on a slope. And at this point, I think a bunch of other people had shown up, and there were some PMR people just out there anyway. And so they were able to get to me pretty quickly, which was really fortunate.
Yeah, one of the articles I read said they were just below you on the trail or something.
Yeah.
They heard you and
Yeah.
saw you falling, and then
they were
popped right there.
really close. Yeah. Someone saw me, someone called 911, someone alerted them.
Wow.
Which is, again, really lucky because
Super.
if you're by yourself, it takes forever for anyone to find you and get to you. And I was like, I know this too. I've been to your safety presentations. I know this is going to take a long time.
You were with a pretty big group, or 5 people or something?
There were like 8 of us.
Yeah. There was no worry that someone didn't know you fell. Like that was never the concern.
I guess. And I didn't know that. I didn't know at the time what anyone else had seen or where anyone else was. Like the group had kind of split up going down. I later learned that there were people that were still at the top that didn't know what happened because they still had to come down. A lot of the communication stuff happened behind me. The logistics of organizing the rescue, I have no idea how that happened.
So I just think about it from your perspective of, or when I've done these things, not as intense things as you've done, but going out for a trail run or a mountain bike ride or something where you're away from people, or skiing too. And I just worry that, if something happens to me, what would I do? Would my arms work so I could get my cell phone out and call? Or would, my friends that ran ahead on the trail or biked ahead, like how long until it could be hours till they like really decide, we better turn around and like ride back up this really steep hill that we just bombed down,
So I did. I got lucky that there were other people around. I got lucky that, PMR is just, they're out there on like busy, nice weekends. They're like, we'd rather be here. And then if something does happen, we're closer. So that was really fortunate. So whoever, again, this is the part I don't remember, people found me and got to me fairly quickly. And I remember just like being really afraid that I was going to keep sliding. Like I was really freaked out about that. And they're like, well, you still have your harness on and like you have this rope on your pack. And so they basically attached the rope to my harness and like slung it around a rock. And they're like, okay, you're tied to this rock. Like you're not going to fall. It's not going to be the most comfortable thing in the world, but you won't fall further until we figure out like how to get you off of this.
You think that was more for you than something that was necessary?
I mean, I think it was. I think it was necessary because I couldn't at this point. I couldn't really move anywhere. Like I couldn't really go anywhere that was less precarious. And it also, I think, made it easier for them to be like, well, she can't go anywhere. She's tied to a rock. Like,
Did they carry you a ways to that rock? Or was that right where you basically hung out where you stopped?
The rock was pretty close to where I fell. I did at one point, they like had me scoot over slightly and shelter behind another rock because there was still a lot of ice and stuff that was falling. And they're like, well, you're protected here so you don't get hit by things. And then the people with you are also protected. So they're not getting hit by shit that's falling. Someone was planning on camping up there for the weekend and happened to have a sleeping bag and a little camp stove. And so they stuffed me in this sleeping bag, like trying to keep me warm because I was like, I can't go anywhere for a long time. Like I can't move. I can't do anything to keep myself warm. And so they're like, they put puffy jackets on me. They put me in the sleeping bag. And I was like, I am stuffed in a bag and I am tied to a rock. This is ridiculous. Okay, this is where we hang out now. Cool. We're going to be here a long time.
You told me how you didn't know how long it would be, right? It could be, you have to mentally prepare yourself for it to be many hours.
Yeah, I knew it was going to be a long time. I have been to the PMR presentations where they're like, don't need to get rescued because it's going to be forever. I think it ended up being about 7 hours until they were able to get the rescue supplies and people to me. And then I think I was back at Timberline at 9:30, and it was probably like 11:30 when I fell. So it was a very long day. Yeah. It was a very long day for the people that rescued me that were still there like after. Yeah. But no, like I knew. I was like, this is going to be a while. Okay, what do we do? We hang out with we hang out with these people and we try to make the best of this really ridiculous situation. I don't remember everything that we did and talked about for 7 hours. I remember at one point we were talking about miniature donkeys. I don't know why we were talking about miniature donkeys, but like someone showed me a picture. I was like, those are really cute. Like, why? I don't know. I'm like, oh, yeah, miniature donkeys. Okay.
What a weird space to be in. Yeah, like you were cozied up in that blanket,
Yeah.
basically, but you can't go to sleep.
No, they wouldn't let me sleep. I was really tired. I was like, you guys have been awake since 2 a.m. They're like, you can't sleep. Like, we were worried
'Cause
about
some bleed or some kind of concussion or
they're worried
something.
about head trauma. And I was like,
Yeah.
I'm really tired. I'm like, well, it's a nice day. The sun's out. Like, you can't. I had to
When were you finally allowed to relax? That's the feeling I imagine. It's like you're tucked into this cozy thing, but you can't relax. No, you're not allowed to. Basically, you can't just like
I mean,
recover from your trauma at
I
all,
still
physical
haven't.
trauma.
I still haven't been able to totally relax.
Yeah.
I think the time that I was allowed to like sort of maybe sleep-ish was when I was in the ambulance on the way to the hospital after, or that paramedic just could not keep me awake, and I was like, I'm out. Yeah, that may have been, or like sometime overnight in the hospital, I was allowed to not be awake.
That was a more interesting thing you said, though. You still haven't been able to relax.
No, I still haven't been able to totally relax.
How's that feel?
Like I live like this scrunched up and I have to very deliberately remind myself, you don't need to do that. Yeah, that'll come. That's a therapy question.
Wow.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like I notice like physiological changes when I tell the story. Like I've told it to people, your heart's going faster and like you're breathing differently. Like, yeah, like I still get that physical response. And sometimes I don't notice it, but I'm like, oh yeah, it's still there. There's still that physical tension. Part of it also feels like it's not real. Like I know that this thing happened, but it doesn't feel like it did. And I think that's a brain trauma coping mechanism. So it'll be interesting to see how that unpacks and unfolds. It'll be interesting to see what happens if I go and put myself in a similar situation again. Mentally, I'm like, yeah, I think I'll be fine. But my body might do something totally different. I might just be like frozen or I don't know. Like I'm curious to see like what's going to happen.
Very Top Gun. Do you remember that Maverick going back up in the air?
Yeah. Yeah. Like how's this going to go? I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't. Those are still some of the unknown things. Yeah. I don't know. We'll figure that out.
Of course. Yes. Good luck with it. Of course, let me know if I can ever help you.
Yeah,
anyway.
thank you.
Man. Yeah. I'm sitting with that idea of, not being able to relax or trying to imagine what it's like now. The layman version, as a person who hasn't dealt with this the same kind of way, is, that you might be scared of falling all the time or have that feeling of that or something. But I think what you're describing is not that at all. It's
it is a little bit like the first time, like a few days after I ride my bike to work, it was a little sketchy. And I was like, okay, I don't know how this is going to go. I think it'll be fine. I think like a week and a half later, I did some indoor rock climbing and I admitted to the people I was climbing with, I was like, I don't know how this is going to go. I don't know how my body's going to feel. Like the first couple were like a little precarious. And then I was like, okay, like somebody remembers how to do this. Like my elbow still hurts. So like I can't use my elbow and like my knee hurts. And I was like, shit, this is going to make me like have good technique and not, knees and elbows. But it came back pretty easily.
probably helped is just to do a little bit of that kind of activity.
Yeah. Just like slowly reintroduce that. I think they're very far removed from like the actual experience of like being in the snow on the mountain. I'm going to try and go snowshoeing this week and see if that's the next like reintroduction step to be like, oh, you are on the snow in the thing. Be like, is this also fine? And work up from there. I mean, I'm going back to the bunny hill.
Yeah. Speaking of which, are you ever a big skier?
I'm learning. I started learning like 2 years ago. And so
some of my good friends are like expert mega skiers who do all the, backpacking up and skiing down crazy stuff. And yeah, I definitely cannot keep up with that or do that kind of activity. There's risk with it at all the times. Mm-hmm. And they can have some big fall. They're out in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's just lucky to get through it.
Yeah, that is. And that's one of the things that people have talked about is, you know enough climbers, you know enough mountaineers, like, you know people that have had things happen because there is an inherent risk in the thing that we love doing. And by doing it, you accept some level of risk. You can be like, I can do everything right, again, everything that's in my control, but there's still this level of risk. There is still the mountain that doesn't give a shit about you and your preparation. And you have to accept that and choose to go or not go. And I've talked to some people that have had accidents and they're like, my level of acceptable risk has changed, where they're like things that, would have previously been fine. They're like, I'm not okay with that anymore. And I don't do that. And that's fine. That's their approach. And that's, I think, what I'm still figuring out is, what is my level of acceptable risk?
Yeah, the things you're doing are dangerous because we can look at the statistics or something, right?
Yeah.
But they don't seem that dangerous sometimes. Or I haven't done it, but it's like sometimes just walking, like where the skiing thing to me seems insane.
Yeah.
Although them doing it, they don't feel like it's that dangerous. They feel like, oh, I can just slide down at any time. It's not a big deal. I'm sliding. Like I can't understand it all.
I think I knew it was dangerous. At one point going up, I like had the realization, I was like, the only thing like keeping me attached to this is 4 little pieces of metal. I was like, oh, okay, you should keep climbing now. Don't sit with that thought. This is not the time to sit with that thought on the side of the slope. Just keep climbing, which is a little bit ironic, like having that realization beforehand, being like, this is the only thing keeping you on here.
That's definitely
until it's not.
Definitely sounds scary.
Yeah.
I'm not putting that down.
Oh, that was some interesting revelations.
So yeah, what's next for you? You're gonna try to go sometime. You're gonna take it day by day, like when we started this conversation. You're minute to minute of what you feel like. But there's a whole season ahead of us.
I know.
What do you do in the summer? Like how does it change? So there's till May, you said there's this season where you could continue this activity.
Yeah.
And then what happens after that?
There's a season for going up mountains and there's a season for going around mountains. And they're kind of opposite times of the year. So once you run out of snow and safe passage to go up, that's when it's time to go around. And then when you have too much snow to go around, that's when it's time to go up the thing.
Nice. I see. Do you run around or do you hike or what? What's your favorite? More running?
Definitely more running. I did this year for the first time. It's been on my bucket list for a long time. I did the Wonderland Trail around Rainier, which was, now that I think about it, maybe I did it wrong. I did it completely like by myself. Like, no, but like I told Ryan, I was like, I'm starting here. I'm going clockwise. Like I have no cell service. Like I'll let you know when I'm back in service. Which was a really, like I didn't give myself an out. Like there was no way not to do it. I was like, I can't get a ride off halfway through. I didn't have anyone going with me. I was like, I'm going to do this one way or another just to see like if I can. Like I have to. So I think more adventures of that types. There's some routes in the Colorado mountains that I really want to do that I think will take a lot of planning and a lot of logistics. This year, next year, I don't know, to be determined.
Sounds fun.
Yeah, I'm doing a couple more hundreds just because they're in places I want to go. And I still need a Hard Rock ticket. I don't know. There's a lot of unknown, which is kind of nice. Like
yeah. How do you stay motivated for these hundreds? For like to get the training in day to day to. I don't know. I struggle. I mean, I'm trying to get better at it and just be like in shape all the time. And at the same time, it's just like a big chunky every day or a lot of the week that gets burned just trying to work out. And
I think for me, it's a thing that I love doing. I used to be a little bit part of like the multi-sport. I was never a triathlete. I can't swim, but like the duathlon community where it's okay, you have to do like this workout and this. It was very like prescribed, very scripted. And I was like, I can't. That is not for me. Like, I do not love 3 hours of zone 2 on a bike trainer. That does nothing for like mental or physical health. And so being able to find something that I truly enjoy has made it much, I don't want to say easier because like physically it's still hard, but it's made it easier to be motivated and to want to do the things. Because, yeah, I mean, I find legitimate joy in, I mean, I was joking with people in the climb. I was like, I love going up hills. This is great. And people were like, I'm miserable. I was like, I'm having the best time.
Like the total opposite of swimming.
Yeah. I was like, I love this. And they're like, you are weird. I was like, I know. I love this. It is like a running joke that I love trudging up hills. That makes me happy. So I will do that. I would like more of that. Sometimes I would like it to be in the daylight, though. It doesn't always have to be in the dark. So I think, yeah, that's more of my motivation. It's just that I enjoy the thing and I want to keep seeing how much of the thing can I do. What else can I do? A long time ago, it was one of those like trail running film festival things. And I don't remember the whole film, but it was called something like You Have More to Give, Doug. And I was like, I like that sentiment.
This was like something said internally, maybe by Doug.
It was the title of the short film.
Yeah.
And I can't remember the whole context, but just this idea of you have more to give. And being like, I do.
Probably the short film had multiple meanings to it.
Yeah. And now I need to go find it again. I need to watch.
Provide a link to this one.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure it was like you have more to give. I think it was Doug. I may be wrong, but it was something about like you have more to give. You are not done. You are not limited. So like what is that? And I mean, that kind of leads to the giant existential question that I've been sitting with is, the why me? Like why did I not fall, 12 feet to the right? Like, why did I walk away unscathed? I went back to pick up my car and my pack the day after from the ski patrol at Timberline, and they were very confused to see me. I was like, I was here yesterday with PMR. I think you have my stuff. And they're like, who are you? And I was like, I think like my bag's in the ski patrol room. And the guy was like, wait, what happened? I was like, I fell from these. Like, oh, people usually don't come back from that. And I was like, oh, was I like, I don't want to replace all my gear. Like that was the first like weird realization of like this should not have gone the way that it did. And then just being like, why did it? And that's the question I'm just going to stop asking because I don't know. I can't ever answer why. I think some of it is luck. Some of it is fate. Some of it is physics. Like I had my pack on and I think that protected my spine, thankfully. So I never hit my back. I never hit my spine. I couldn't twist it in a weird way that the hospital was very worried about like spinal trauma. And I was like, my spine's fine, you guys. I've been like sitting up and talking for 7 hours, but that was their big focus. And I was like, no, it's okay. So I think there's some physics at play that made that happen. Some people's theories is like, no, you're just like really tough. That's why you survived. Ryan's mom is like, it's because you're in my prayers every day. And I was like, cool. If that's what you need to feel, like, okay, I will accept that. I mean, people have been like, it was like your attitude up there. I was like, this is a shitty situation. I'm not going to get really depressed and make this shitty situation worse because that's not going to help anything. It's not going to get me off here faster. It's not going to make my time stuffed in this bag tied to a rock any better.
Your positive mental attitude, basically.
Yeah. I was like, I can do nothing, right? I can literally and physically do nothing. And so I can either like mentally make this better or make this worse. And knowing that I'm going to be here a long time, I don't want to make this worse. I would like to make this better in any way that I can. So there's a lot of those things, but I will never have that answer. And I'm okay with that. I am here for a reason. And for a while it was like, well, I feel like I still need to do something, like some kind of like unfinished business or, something like that. There's something left to do. There's a reason. And then I was talking to someone that's a new friend of mine and she's like, what if the reason is just you? It's not that you have to do anything. It's just that you are the thing. And I was like, oh, okay. I never thought about that. No pressure, but maybe that's enough. And yeah, I'm going to sit with that one.
I think it's more pressure the other way, right? If you have to do something, right? Like now it's foisted upon you that you must produce a magical event because something magical happened to you, right?
I don't know, but just that maybe being is enough. I mean, I do feel like I want to do more to give back.
Yeah. Do you think about, yeah, you want to
I'm gonna
take a
start
minute?
crying.
Yeah.
Sometimes I randomly start crying. That's part of the thing.
Totally. Okay.
Sometimes it's like when I get to work in the morning, I was like, I can't do this. I'm just gonna cry in the bathroom for 5 minutes.
That's amazing.
But I mean, I do want to give back in some way. I haven't totally figured out what that is yet because I mean, I really do. I owe my life to people that voluntarily hung out with me and saved me. And that's an incredibly selfless thing to do. And that's, I think, something that most people, most people are never put in that situation, which is good. But I think that's something that most people don't do or don't have to.
It's definitely a great thing. They spend their time dedicating
Oh my
their
God,
skills, their bodies,
they
their
were amazing. Like
effort too.
they were better than the people in the hospital who, that's a different story. But like the volunteer rescue treated me so well and so humanly. I mean, at one point, like they're on the radios and they're talking about like the patient and they said something like, oh, like he, and one of them was like, no, the patient's a female. Like they corrected it. And I was like, I know pronouns are important, but like right now, I don't care. I don't care if you get
It's a
my
human.
pronouns
Yes,
right.
the
Like
human.
whatever gets me off of here. But the fact that they even were like, no, she's a female and brought that up when I got to the hospital, they slapped one of those bracelets on me that was like Vulcan dough. Like it didn't even have any identifying information. I was like, I'm a human. And they treated me so humanly that was really special in like a weird way. So I feel like I don't quite know yet what to do with that, but I would like to be able to give back in some way, in that like humanity is really, it's changed the way I interact with people. I mean, like I'm nicer to my clients. I'm just like more, not more forgiving, but more understanding something. Yeah. And it's
Trying to give people the grace that you
that
feel
has
as
been
well.
so
Yeah.
freely given to you, that like is always there. That's the thing that's going to stick with me, and to be able to then give that back, because that goes both ways. Like it's given to me and then I give that in return.
How did you phrase it again?
It's credit to my friend Sam. The grace that you are being freely given right now has always been available to you. And the idea that this is an exception is inherently Midwestern and comes from inside you. He like texted me that and I screenshot it. I was like, I'm going to frame that at some point. That's going to be a thing. I don't know yet, but I'm saving that one for later. But that one stuck with me. And then something else that Yassine said, unrelated to this, but like really stuck, was it was from his Move Through Darkness project, that no one recovers alone. And I felt like for a long time I was alone. And then something happened and all of these people just start showing up. And I didn't have to ask any of them to. And just this feeling that I'm not alone.
I think you're not talking about that day. Or are you? Or is it both?
Both. It's both. I think I was starting to feel that a little bit, but then this, whatever, incident, shenanigans was like a really significant shift. And yeah, like to feel like I finally matter. Like for a long time, I didn't feel like I mattered. And that again it's got very inside me, and that it, somehow it took something really big to change that, to realize that I do matter. And that's really nice. Like it's kind of it's initially like a weird and uncomfortable feeling, but once you get past that, it's really nice. And I would like more of that. Like I would like more of that. And I would like to then give that to people. And, things like just telling my friends, I appreciate you. We don't do that enough culturally. It's weird. Like we're raised to easily to find fault and to criticize, and it's much harder, I think, to tell people positive things, to tell people like, you're doing a good job. I appreciate you. Thank you. And that's something I really want to take forward. And the more you do it, the less weird it becomes. Like it just, and again, the friend that told me the thing about the grace at one point, I told him, it was like, I love you exactly the way that you are. And he said, I appreciate that. It's still a little like weird to hear that, but like, I know that it's genuine, and I know that we need to do more of that. So it's a going forward thing that I'm still figuring out, but
Awesome.
I think, yeah.
Well, unless there's anything else you want to cover, that sounds like a great sentiment to wrap it up on. I thank you so much for joining me and sharing your story with me. And
thanks for having me.
yeah, definitely glad to help you feel important for another moment longer, and you definitely are. And this is that's a feeling I think that everyone should get, or that I'll probably cut this out because I'm not going to say it right. As great as you're saying things, but I've met thousands of great people in my life or something, and that's one of the reasons I wanted to do this podcast, was kind of just reconnect with them, bring them out, tell their stories in different ways. And yeah, I'm just continually amazed at the wonderful people I meet and that are out there in the world, and that it's like everyone has this amazing story to tell.
There are so many lovely people in the world. That's one of the other things that I've taken away from this, is that there's so many wonderful people, and I appreciate them. Like I really, one of the things that a lot of people have said to me is, we're glad you're here. And I was like, you know what? I'm glad I'm here too. Yeah. I'm glad I'm here. I'm glad we're all here.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much, Leah.
Thanks.
Thanks a ton for listening. And don't forget to like and subscribe. I hope you learned something, and I'll see you next time, friends.